with your host, VOCAB MALONE.
What's up, party people in the place to be? My name is VOCAB MALONE, coming at you Backpack Radio Live. Can you believe it? It is already October 9th, 2018. That's 10/9/18. Today is a Tuesday. We're going live at a different time today, but it's still on a Tuesday. It's 10 o'clock East Coast time. The topic is discussing a Christian apologetics video that was a reaction to the Gungor video. Specifically, Buzzfeed put out a video where they interviewed Lisa Gungor, and she talks about how she stopped believing in God after pastoring a megachurch. My good friend John McCray from What Do You Mean made a reaction video to it, and it's got 143,000 views and counting last time I checked. Now, in the Christian apologetics world, that's viral, and those numbers really aren't bad on their own. Welcome to Backpack Radio Live. John McCray, how you doing, bro? Thanks for coming on, man.
Yeah, no problem, Chad. What up, man? Good to see you, bro.
Man, this is like a reunion show for the Apologetic Avengers. We got 2 out of 3, so that's not bad.
Right.
All right, hey, everyone, while we're getting set up, make sure you smash that like button and then grab the link and share it across the internet. So, John McCray, for those who don't know, tell people a little bit about yourself, and then I got 9 questions to ask you about this.
Yeah. Well, first, thanks for having me on, man. It's this is kind of last minute too, so I haven't even heard the questions yet, so I'm kind of excited how it's going to go. But for those that don't know, my name is John McCray, and I have a YouTube channel called What Do You Mean? And pretty much the kind of concept, the basic idea is that I take a look at anti-Christian memes, videos, and bruisey slogans, and then respond to them with facts or whatever else, the kind of what is needed for the meme to actually respond to. So that's pretty much the gist of it. Lately I've been staying a little bit more away from the memes, but every now and then I'll get some memes to kind of throw in. But I really like going after like videos or slogans and that sort of thing. So
yeah, man, and you've been doing great. I mean, you only started your channel a little over a year ago as far as taking it serious, and you're at 18,000 subscribers, I believe.
Yeah, I think that's right, something like that. Yeah,
that is amazing, man. That is awesome. And you know what? I like your vibe. I'll tell everybody. John was like, "Hey, this video is doing pretty well. Maybe I can come on. It's a good time." I was like, "You are right." For those who don't know, John is like him and David are like my mentors. That doesn't mean everything I do on YouTube or apologetics is what they would have me do, but a lot of the inside scoop information, wisdom about a lot of that type of stuff comes from them. So I greatly appreciate them, and they always seem like they're kind of looking out for me, which I appreciate. So much love to you, John, and I love always working with you. And seriously, man, I'm glad you could come on and do this, man. So I'm excited.
Absolutely, man.
Hey, we got at least one GMS person in the building, John. I'll make sure I save all their questions for you.
All right, sounds good, man.
But for real, Lily R's in the super chat. She's one of the faithful. You might even say she's one of the elect. She holds it down on the Street Apologist social media team. She's already given in the super chat. She says, "God bless VOCAB and John." Thank you, Lily, for all you do on social media. And also to Rox B. She's one of the others. I mean, these folks, there are some down people. Basically, this channel would not run the way it does without them. Roxby, Lily R, Michelle, Warrior Woman, Carm, some great people out there. So much love to you, Roxby, too. Yes, I'm going to get your book in the mail. I promise I will. All right, so with that, oh, thanks you, Lily. Lily sharing your YouTube channel. By the way, yeah, subscribe to John's YouTube channel. It's very unique in the world of Christian apologetics, and he does some great stuff. John, are you ready to get right into these questions?
Yeah, man, let's do it.
All right, so let me set the stage just a little bit. Buzzfeed hardly ever does any nice stuff for Christianity. I'll just put it that way. They love to do these lists, and they do things that are almost designed to go viral. They do a pretty good job at staying up in the social media, swirl. And they did a video with Lisa Gungor, who's the wife, Michael Gungor, a really innovative, creative husband and wife Christian musician team. A couple years ago, Michael came out and said some things that had some people shook up in regards to inerrancy and some things like that. And then he eventually came out and said, hey, I'm an atheist. And now Lisa is telling her side. I believe she has a book that goes along with his interview. And that video got over 1 million views, the Buzzfeed interview. It was very short, but it packed a lot into it. Could you set the stage a little bit more? Because I don't want to play the whole video or anything, but set the stage a little bit to the video that you reacted to, John, as far as the initial Buzzfeed video itself.
Yeah, so I saw it pop up on my feed, and I didn't really watch it at first because I was like, but I was actually interested because of the title. I thought the title was a good title.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so after I did watch it, I thought about it, and I thought about like kind of responding to it, and I was like, so I probably don't need to respond. And I was thinking like a video like this is actually difficult to respond to, and like people think that you probably just say whatever, but when it comes to these kind of personalized stories, it doesn't matter. Like even if you're completely factually accurate, it's not going to translate right for people because it's so emotionally heavy, and a lot of people, Christian or not, people can relate to it.
That's good.
Yeah, and so that's what's like very hard about responding to something like this too. And then when it's a story, it's hard to kind of narrow down like what the point of the story is, And so you're like, well, what part of the story do I respond to? Do I respond to all of it? You know what I mean? Or what? And so it's a lot of kind of picking and choosing your battle. So initially, I didn't really want to do it, And about a week went by, and I saw it went over 1 million views. I think it was about right when I decided to do a response to it. I think because I was working a lot too, so I didn't really have time. But I think it was at like 975,000 when I thought about, okay, I'll do it. Then the next day when I went on to actually go see that over 1 million, like if I can give a response to this, then hopefully people can see it, and it will I wanted to kind of rejuvenate the way that people see Christianity because of the perception that Christianity has in culture at large.
Yeah, so it's at basically 1.4 million as of today, and it was published September 19th. This thing has got 17,950 comments already. So, I mean, we're talking something that's made an impact, and it's only 7 minutes. And I like how you pointed out the fact of the empathy aspect. You know what I'm saying? Where you want to be sure to display empathy to the person's story and not just only come at them, because that does translate better to social media, and that's good. I think you have a good understanding on that, and I think that's something for Christian apologists to take note of. It's not just, maybe you wish it was, but the fact is with the internet, it's not just facts. A lot of it is tone and immediate impressions and things like that, and I think John is good at understanding that innate sense, and I appreciate the model that you set in that area.
Appreciate it.
Shout out also to Gwendolyn. She's another person who's pretty dope. In fact, she's down on Patreon. Much love to her. She is given in the super chat. All right, well, you buffered a little bit, John. If it happens again, we'll maybe start you over or something. But you sound good now. Okay, let's get right into the question. I got the first question for you, John McCray. And by the way, while I'm asking these questions, I want everyone in the audience to keep in mind I've done something very kind for you guys. I've reserved slots 6 and 7 for you. So the 6th and 7th question, I'm asking 9 questions for John tonight, are for the audience. So when the time comes, have your question ready, because I'm not going to look too much until I get to about question 5. And so try to follow along the flow of it, but I want to pick 2 of the best questions from the audience. They may not be the best ones, they may just be the ones I see, so write them nice. First question, John, why did you, now you sort of answered this, but reiterate from a different angle if you could. Why did you make this reaction video to this Gungor video? There's 1,000 things going on in the world. Kavanaugh was happening, and this over there was happening. Why did you make a reaction video to this?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. Like, honestly, when I thought about the video and I realized the impact that it probably would be having on a lot of people, right? It kind of fits into that cultural narrative, and a lot of people could emotionally relate to it. And because of that, I said, we need to get a video that would respond to this, so that way at least people can understand what Christianity kind of really is all about, And I thought too, like when I was doing it, I was like, a lot of people are going to want me to kind of like beat up on this girl or something like that. You know what I mean? Because that's what people like on social media. I remember last I kind of looked at statistics, people prefer binary answers and speed answers. You know, they don't want to hear the complexities and all. They just take their side and slam in. But I didn't want to do that because I said, what's the purpose of me recording this video? If it's to make me feel better about myself or make other people feel better about themselves, that's not what I want to do, right? I don't want to just make people feel better about themselves. I really actually genuinely have a heart, for, because this is what's so, I truly believe the gospel, right? I truly believe it. And that, like, it's great news. And I really, honestly, I just want everybody to know it, right? And so when you get an opportunity like this too, I want to show people that what Christianity really is all about, and then kind of take away a little bit from all of that kind of emotional story. So not to invalidate her story or anything like that, but really to show people really what was missing in this scenario. I guess is what I really wanted to show, what was really going on.
Right, that's good. Let me give people a little bit of sense of this. You guys can hear the audio. Let me just show you a little bit of video so you can get a sense of this. Hold on, here we go.
This is Lisa Gungor. I'm a recent author, I'm a musician,
the
I'm a
right
songwriter.
spot.
My mom and I found this wild church.
Tell you what, I'm gonna find a better spot for that. But there you get a sense of the story. I'm gonna find a better spot and bring it on later for that, guys. But all right, that's a good answer. I appreciate that. Let's continue to question 2, and I'll show a little bit more of that later on. All right, second question for John McCray. Yep. What has the reaction been to your reaction? So you made this, you don't have 1.4 million views, but 143,000. Especially, I think you were like a week behind when hers came out, or the Buzzfeed one came out. Is excellent. Especially, I don't know if people know, but Christian apologetics is a hard field to be in on YouTube. In fact, I have a friend who has some sort of inside information. He works for one of these companies that deal with social media companies. Facebook actually tags anything that has the word Christianity in it now. So they look at anything automatically if it says Christianity, which is amazing if you think about it. And so it's not an easy job, but yet you managed to stake a voice out. So what's the reaction been to your Gungor reaction video?
Yeah, and before that, I do want to second that. It is hard being an apologist on YouTube. I think it's a lot harder than people probably might think. I know when I first started the channel, I was like, oh, this is going to be easy, right? But it's really not. But, I also do, too, believe that God is sovereign overall, too, and so I kind of trust in God, too, and so anyways, to kind of get to your question about the reaction, it's been interesting. I mean, I've kept up with a lot of the comments. I don't know how many comments there are now. I know there's a lot, but I kind of try to look through them kind of quick, like once a day maybe or so, and kind of see what people are thinking and how they respond. And it's interesting because I'd say it's about maybe 50% of people that are like, yeah, this is awesome or whatever, good job, or affirming what I'm saying. Actually, I can't put percentages on it. I'll just take it back. I'll just kind of state, kind of the responses I get. So there's some section of people that are like, oh, this is good, or this helped me, or this helped make things clear, that sort of thing too. So for that, praise God. And then there's also some Christians that are a little more nasty towards it, and this is just inevitable. This kind of happens when they're kind of like, yeah, that girl is, this and that or whatever. She's, just using people and, what I mean, or whatever, using the church and, all this other kind of stuff. That happens sometimes too. And I think that's just our sin nature. We tend to want to elevate ourselves all the time too, and so I think that just comes with it sometimes. So also then I've got just a few Hebrew Israelites, probably, I don't know, maybe 10 comments or something from Israelites telling me that I don't know that I'm part of, the Israelites and this. And that.
Wait, you're serious? You're getting Hebrew Israelites commenting on this video?
Yeah, I probably saw maybe about 10 comments. Yeah. And they're just like, you haven't even read your Bible, this. Like, well,
Yeah, they're the kings of staying off topic,
Yeah. Well, well, not only them, the atheists too have been really off topic for most of the point too, or most of it. The atheists have been pretty off topic too. They'll just comment on there and say, "Well, God doesn't exist," and I'm like, "All right, well, that's not really what the video's about." But
Right.
but I'm happy that they're watching. I've had a few atheists that have watched clearly a lot of my videos and commented on all my videos and stuff like that. Where they'll say, "Hey, I watched all your videos and this and that." And there's some really cool atheists too. There was a guy today. I don't remember his name at all, but he was pretty cool. Those kind of atheists I really enjoy when they're on my channel. You know what I mean? Because I like atheists that tend to be a little bit more. I want to say objective without trying to sound condescending to the other.
Right.
Yeah, they're more fair-minded in my view, at least. And so, I've done a few of those, which is really kind of cool too. And those are the ones I don't mind talking to. But when people just write "Oh, you're so stupid, you believe in God," "Oh, it's 2018," or something like that, I'm not going to really waste any time talking to people who don't want to hear anyway. When it comes to something like that. So, but anyways, yeah. So reactions have been pretty good overall. I'd say the majority are for sure have been positive. And to me, I mean, I'm not happy about this for myself. I'm just happy that this is the gospel reaching more people. And the fact that a lot of people said that, they should just state in the gospel clearly, I think it's a blessing, because I think the gospel, which is so crazy, but the gospel is not something that we really tend to emphasize in churches as much overall. You know what I mean? And so, which sounds crazy, but a lot of people don't understand the gospel in just a kind of a simple way, And so, that's part of, the problem today with culture and the reason why you get a lot of people that are attacking Christianity and they don't really know what they're attacking, you know what I mean, a lot of the time. So, so I think it's just, it's a blessing for the few people that it, has reached in comparison. And I think when I looked at my analytics,
can be true.
Yeah, you're breaking up. You're breaking up a little bit. You're breaking up a little bit. Let me play a little bit of this. Let's see. Get you going.
In arenas. Okay. The more we ran into other people's stories, the more we started doubting what we'd been given. And Michael and I took this trip in Europe from Rome. We took trains up to Krakow. We visited the concentration camps. We walked through the crematoriums. And it's real hard to come back to America and pray for something.
So that was a big part of the story, was visiting, the Holocaust museum and seeing that. That was a big part there of the story, and so that's interesting because of course that relates directly to, a question that's important within Christianity as well as life. What you might call the problem of evil. And so that figures into it as well. So I do want people to be aware of that because clearly there's a story element, but there's also the element of that. And we might get to that. I want to just make people aware of that for now. Let's go here though to the third question, and I see some pretty good folks up in here. Hey, what's up, Helena? How you doing? What's up, Gerard Perry? What's up, Luna? We got some great folks, man. I think we might get a little more viewers. We're about our normal video viewers. I was hoping you would triple how many people came on. Just kidding, bro. No, we got good people though. But let me go here to the next one if I can get it here. Keep an eye out as well, John. If you see any questions that catch your eye. Keep them in mind because you might be able to get to some of those. All right, hold on. Where did it go? All right, here we go. Third question for John McCray. How and why? So this is a little bit of you theorizing, okay? Because you don't know exactly. But I would love to hear you theorize. Why did your reaction go viral? Again, we're using viral sort of within the Christian apologetics world. This video does good, but Justin Bieber or whatever, bad news. I mean, those things are going to be a whole nother level. But within far as what we do, this video is just done very well, and I'm so excited because you mentioned the gospel being in there. This video is just proclaims the gospel so clearly, and I'm glad it's your most popular video now. But why do you think you're, as humbly as you can, why do you think what you did so well? Why do you think it's doing so well? Because it's trending,
Yeah, Yeah, it is kind of funny to say going viral with
Hey,
apologetic.
just be
Like,
honest. It is what it is, bro. It is what it is.
no, it is funny, but as for the amount of views it's gotten, I don't know, man. Honestly, I kind of credit everything to God because in my mind, it's like um, I want God to use these things, right? Like it's kind of like what I say in the video, right? I try to take myself out a lot of times too, and sometimes that's hard, you know. Sometimes I'll get some comments or something and be like, "Hey, I did do a good job," right? You know. But then I realize, like, I mean, it might not even be me that's doing it. You know, God could be using the fruit from the video for things that are totally unrelated to me and my spiritual, you know, walk or gifts or whatever you want to call it. You know what I mean? So I'll constantly always remind myself of that if I ever do start feeling like you know, taking credit for whatever's going on. But with that, like I think hopefully I hope the fact that it's pretty clear way to understand it. It did take a little bit of time for me to kind of play it out in my head, a little bit how I wanted the video to go. Because when I heard her video, I had to take a step back and I said, okay, what is she really saying here, right? And so in my mind, I kind of boiled it down. I said, okay, there's three issues that she's primarily complaining about. One is this idea of getting things from God, even though, you know, not getting the things that she wants, even though she's doing all these things that are right, which is a very, very common belief. And this takes a lot of different forms too. So a lot of people don't realize it. But if we feel like we have to clean ourselves up, you know, just some, and then God can do the rest, that's still kind of a form of this. You know what I mean? And so, and both, I think, are taken away from justification. But anyway, so I said, okay, it's that transaction kind of view. The second thing was like the problem of evil. And then the third thing was more like the community aspect, her friends and the reaction to them. And those were the main kind of three things, are the main three things I kept hearing her say over and over. Mm-hmm. So with that, I said, okay, so now that I've kind of made these categories distinct, now what's the best way to respond, you know? And so I kind of went through my mind and said, well, I could respond, you know, with all the facts and all that, but it can't just be that. And then I was like, well, maybe I'll just tell my story. And then I was like, well, I don't want to talk too much about my story. So then I just kind of like decided to just kind of, what I did is I had some kind of notes written out and then I was like, forget it. And then I just completely over and then just did it, you know, and you know, kind of just worked out. But I hope that it was clear. Is what I wanted to do is bring clarity, because I know that something like this is harder to see what's going on. And so that's what I was kind of shooting for, was to kind of make it clear. And I didn't spend a lot of time on the problem of evil because I have other videos on it. So like the concentration counts, which is the reason I didn't. But I try to, once I found out those three distinctions, I thought about the assumptions behind them. I said, okay, what is the assumptions that these views are based off of? And then those are the assumptions I want to challenge, you know? And so it really kind of boiled down to when I thought about the problem of evil stuff, I was like, well, the main thing is her idea of God, this conception of God being this certain kind of way. You know what I mean?
Hold that, because we are gonna, one of the questions is specifically on that, so we are gonna get to that. So let me summarize some of what you said. Notice, number one, John meditated on what he wanted to do, so there's thought that went into it. But there's also a certain level where, you know, other things he's done in life prepare him to do this. It's not like he can just all of a sudden come up with what he wants to say at the same time. What I mean is, you know, he's an apologist. So he's reading, he's thinking through things, he's talking to people. I know for a fact he has a lot of great dialogue and conversation partners that he bounces things off of. I know for a fact that, you know, he's constantly intaking information. And so, you know, that's something he's able to do as well, is that it's sort of there. So he's in the mode and moment of thinking about these things. And ultimately, I wanted you guys to see through the process of how he did this, because I'd love to see more people do things like this. Now, one person asked a question. I lost track of your question on here. But it said, hey, did she actually say in the video she was an atheist? And let me answer, and then, John, maybe you can say something as well. I don't remember her saying she is a straight-up atheist. Her husband, Michael, I think is going that direction, and is essentially saying he is an atheist. But from what I can tell, that's not exactly what she's saying. But she's clearly saying, from what I could tell, my conception of God, whatever that is, does not look like anything that's Christian, as far as I understand Christianity, any longer. John, could you comment on that?
Yeah, actually, I got a few comments on my video talking about this, so I went and looked into it. She actually clarified on her Instagram that this was a lot of Buzzfeed's doing. She said she had no control over the title, and she's not an atheist. So yeah, that's what was interesting about it. She said that she like tried to be an atheist for like a day, and then was over. But BuzzFeed kind of painted it as if she was a pastor and that she was an atheist, but she's not. I can't recall what she said about her husband. I want to say something like he's finding God in his own way or something like that. I think people wrote that on my thing, So, but she's technically not an atheist. I'm not sure if she's a Christian or not. I don't think I read that, but she kind of used it as an opportunity to say, if you want to know more, check out my book, which is fine. But so it's not very clear where her position is. To me, at least, it wasn't. Other people might know. To be honest with you, I never even heard of her until this video.
Oh, really? You never?
Yeah.
Gungor, if you check out their stuff, it's pretty dope. Like, it was pretty creative. It wasn't sort of in a limited box. They were sort of outside the, like, maybe some of the stale windows that sometimes CCM, that's contemporary Christian music, could be. I felt like they were doing some really unique kind of artistic, organic stuff. In my opinion, it's not hip-hop or nothing like that, but from my perspective about what they were doing, I felt like it had artistic merit. It was kind of different kind of stuff. I mean, maybe check out some of their stuff. People were commenting right now in the live chat about how much they love some of the music. I appreciated the artistic merit of it personally, even though it wasn't necessarily my style. But I got you.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's go on here. The next question, and it is question 4. What's the appeal? Now, you mentioned this, but I want to reiterate. If you have to theorize, why did this initial BuzzFeed video do well in the first place? We can get on BuzzFeed because, they go after Christians and they title things a certain way. That's all true. But nonetheless, a lot of people wanted to watch this video because you don't get clicks and views and it doesn't keep on showing up unless people are watching it. Why do you think people are even interested in this kind of thing? Because clearly they are.
Yeah. I think in my
Hey,
because
you're breaking up
the video
a little
kind
bit.
of
Okay, I can hear you again. Go ahead, bro.
Good. Yeah, you're breaking up too. Whoever's watching too, is VOCAB breaking up or is it me or is it both of us? Somebody write that in the comments. But yeah, in my mind, sorry, I'm sick. I've been sick for the last couple of days. My son is back to school, bringing home everything.
Oh yeah, I know how that happens. Yeah.
Yeah. So in my mind, the reason why, at least a couple of the reasons why, I think one, it's because it kind of, first off, it's easy to relate to. I'd say most people have been made to feel bad because of some Christians trying to make them feel bad with Christianity, right? In some way. And feeling like the outcast if you are having different views than the rest of the group and you're trying to question, and the group is blowing you off. It's just like, nah, you need to go pray more or something. You're not spiritual enough and this and that. And then also giving you that transaction view of God, then, that stuff can take a toll on you. And this is why I think when I hear a lot of atheists that I talk to, at least, I realize that a lot of the time they have this sort of conception of God that they learn from people like this, and that's just, it's unfortunate, but at least in Christianity, I think we have resources to explain it and also to correct it. I want to say to explain it because, real quick, to explain it because we're all sinners and we are all so much more sinful than we could possibly realize. We just don't realize it. Even for myself, throughout the last, maybe 2 years or so too, I've really done a lot of reflecting. And a lot of times I was like, no, my intentions are good here, but we hide things from ourselves. And then when you're presented with a dichotomy where you have to choose A or B, and A is the right thing to do and B is kind of what you want to do, a lot of times I'm like, well, my heart's with B. I want to do B, and I think a lot of people are we're all like that in some way too, and the deeper you get, the more you realize how bad it can actually be, So, and then I say the second way to correct it is that Jesus was correcting against these religious type people all the time. His entire ministry, over and over and over, he's correcting these people that had this sort of transaction view of God, or that they were It's like, oh, you think you're good enough? Well, if you even looked at a woman with lust in your heart, then you've already committed adultery with her, or if you even looked at your brother with hate, then you've already committed murder in your heart, And so all these people that thought they held all the rules, Jesus is like, no, you still are messed up. You still need me.
Yeah.
That's the kind of point.
You mentioned the Hebrew Israelites. Hey, I don't know if you've got me up, but all of a sudden I'm hearing feedback from your end of my voice. But the Hebrew Israelites, they'll sometimes say, "Oh, the law, man, it's easy to keep, man. It's not too hard." And I realize these guys just don't understand the law. To say that the law is not too hard to keep and we could do it is really crazy. And Jesus exposed that with person after person. Probably the classic example is the rich young ruler who comes up and he says, good teacher, what must I do to be saved or, inherit the kingdom type of thing. First of all, Jesus questions him, says, why do you call me good? Now, sometimes people take that as some kind of thing that Jesus is saying he's not God. Think about it, guys. Is Jesus really saying, hey, I'm bad here? No, he's getting the man to challenge his notions about who Christ even is. Because Jesus is not saying he's bad. He's saying, yeah, that's right, but no one's really good except for God. And so I want people to think about that because it leads into what he does then. He says, well, you know the Ten Commandments in essence, He said, yeah, I've kept these all since I was a boy. Now, do we really think that's true? Remember, Jesus, in other contexts, explains the fullness of the law and how deep it goes. It's not just the one thing, it's all the implications of that one thing as far as the Decalogue. And that's why the 2 commandments entail everything. Well, he says, yeah, you lack something. So what you have, follow me. He's saying, give what you have for discipleship. Answer that call. And Jesus could do that as God, he as Lord, as Master. And if this person is where they are, where they really say they are, he'd be able to say, okay, but he could not. The man walked away sad, for he had great wealth. So clearly there's an idol, the very first thing, something that came before the Lord his God. And I want to bring up something here. This is from Jeremiah 17. Jeremiah 17. And this is where the prophet is speaking to those in Israel at the time, and he specifically speaks about the sin of Judah. And I just want to read through some of these verses because this has been a human problem forever. You're talking about the true state of humanity. The sin of Judah is written with a pen of iron, with a point of diamond. It is engraved on the tablet of their heart, and on the horns of their altars, while the children remember their altars and their Asherim, saying there are idolaters there. This is Jeremiah 17. Beside every green tree and on the high hills, on the mountains and the open country, your wealth and all your treasures I will give for spoil as the price of your high places, for sin throughout all your territory, saying they're going to be judged for their idolatry, and they're going to lose what they've earned as far as financially. You shall loosen your hand from your heritage I gave to you. They're going to be kicked out of the land, and I'll make you serve your enemies in a land that you do not know. That's Babylonian captivity prophesied. So the spiritual captivity will be matched by a physical captivity. For in my anger a fire is kindled that shall burn forever. Thus saith the Lord, cursed is the man who trusts in man. Look at that. Cursed is the man who trusts in man. That includes ourselves, by the way. It makes flesh his strength. Now, specifically, Israel here is relying on their neighbors to protect them and stuff, but the point remains in a much broader way. Whose heart turns away from the Lord. So, in essence, trusting in man is turning your heart away from the Lord. He's like a shrub in the desert and shall not see any good come. He shall dwell in the parched places of the wilderness in an uninhabited salt land. Sounds like Phoenix. Blessed is the man who trusts in the Lord. So, there's a contrast here. Almost sounds like Proverbs here, whose trust is in the Lord. He is like a tree planted by the water that sends out its roots by the stream and does not fear when heat comes, for its leaves remain green, and is not anxious in the year of drought, for it does not cease to bear fruit. So that's something about what the life of the believer looks like in the Old Covenant and certainly in the New Covenant. But look at this, verse 9, and here's why I wanted to read this, but I'm reading a little bit of the context. Jeremiah 17:9. The heart is deceitful above all things and desperately wicked. Who can understand it? One more time. The heart is deceitful above all things and desperately sick. I'm sorry, I said that wrong because I was turning the page. Who can understand it? And then it says, the Lord, I the Lord search the heart and test the mind. So really, what's that mean? Only God even knows the own heart. And that's a wild thing, and that's a challenging thing for all of us. And I want to bring that out. That's also for the Hebrew Israelites watching, because they'll watch a show and say, "VOCAB, man, he ain't bring out no scriptures." Well, guys, I brought out at least one, and it's even from the Old Testament, so happy, 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 joy, joy. All right, guys, remember, next 2 questions are yours after this, so we're on number 5, so I'm going to be looking at your questions. Question 5 to John McCray of What Do You Mean? This is what everyone's been asking about. Can you speak on this? Because you did a great job of nailing this down, John. Speak on the transactional model of the gospel. I put that in air quotes. The transactional model. That was mentioned a lot here in this Gungor video. Can you speak on that?
Yeah. So this is another thing I was thinking when I heard it. I was thinking in terms of kind of like a model or a house, and I was thinking in terms of foundation, right? And I said we have all these things that are kind of more complex in Christianity and stuff like that, where you're like, where does this go? Where does this go? Where does this go? But there's things that are foundational to Christianity that are very clear in Scripture. And so as I was thinking through this thing, I said, okay, so if her foundation, as it appeared to be, and I can only go off the video, right? I don't know her full story, but my point was to try to respond to the video because a lot of people are only going to hear the video. Mm-hmm. And so, I can't respond to her full story for things things she didn't mention in the video. So anyways, the foundation, it seemed to be this idea of the transaction. She called it the transaction view, I think, in hers. But I was thinking if that concept of Christianity, if you think this is what Christianity is and it's at the foundation, well, as soon as, this thing, people get disappointed in God, are disappointed because they're not getting stuff, the rest of the house crumbles because that's at the foundation. So I wanted to try to show a way to replace it with something that's a lot more clear in Scripture. You know what I mean? Really, I want to replace it with the gospel at the foundation, because that's really what it all kind of boils down to. It's the gospel. But yeah, so with that kind of transaction view, the basic idea is just that, like, if I do this, then God will bless me. If I continue to do this, God will bless me. Or if I don't do this, and God wants me to do it, then bad things will happen. Or if I have doubts, bad things will happen, and all this sort of thing. And a lot of people comment in prosperity gospel. And yeah, that is true. That's, a theme in the prosperity gospel. Besides, theirs is more materialistic. It's like, if I, do these things for God, then God's going to give me a lot more money. If I tithe, then God's going to give me this and a big house and all these material things. But in my mind, what I really wanted to get to was, because for me, the gospel is like incredibly moving, especially when I go through Romans all the time and stuff like that. And so I wanted to get out the point that none of our good works justify us before God. And like I said, it takes a lot of different forms. I mean, you even have it in some churches and stuff like that too. They think you got to do these things and then you're clean. You got to do these things and you're clean. You have all these different things, like water baptism, or some of like the, they say the means for grace and all these things, and not to get too deep into their views, but the thing is, like, when I'm reading Romans, I see, when he's talking about circumcision, I see that a lot, like these things, right? They don't save you. And I said, even on a practical level, within like evangelicals and Protestants, they say, oh, I need to clean up. And this is what gets me, is I've had this conversation with a lot of people. They say, if I need to clean up myself to this point, then God can do the rest. But what you're doing there is you're not hearing what justification actually is. You know what I mean? No, we're actually saved for putting our trust in Christ, to save us, because we can't save ourselves. And so that's kind of really the main thing I wanted to kind of show. And there's a lot more to kind of be said about that. But if you have a view where you're doing things in order to get God's approval, and to justify yourself, if you have a view that's basically that, what can tend to happen a lot, and which usually happens, is that you're going to start looking down on other people that aren't as spiritual as you and aren't as moral as you and all this other thing, because you're actually doing something. But in the gospel, when you realize that there's nothing you can do that can actually put you in better seating with God, there's nothing you can do to make you saved, then you can't feel better than anyone else, because the gospel says everybody, all of our righteous works are filthy rags. You know what I mean? Everybody is in the same kind of boat, and I've talked about that in another video. I think it's called Christianity, or Why Religion, or How Religion Makes You Evil, or something like that. But yeah, so that's the kind of basic idea I wanted to kind of get out to. One of the ideas I really wanted to convey in this video too, so that way people realize, like, it's not about that. Because in Romans, Paul is basically saying, around chapters like 2 to 4. He's like, you can either do this, then you have to fulfill the whole law. By the way, you can't, because if you break one, you break them all. Yep. So you can either do this by the law, by your own means, but then you're judged and condemned by the law, or you can be judged by Jesus' righteousness. Yeah. So it's not even the fact that you're forgiven for all your sins. It's more than that. It's actually that you're taking on the righteousness of Christ in God's eyes. So.
And that's something that sort of technically would be called imputation. The imputed righteousness of Christ, because sometimes you'll hear people say justification, that's just as if I'd never sinned, because the Bible uses that word justification, which is a good translation of the Greek word, of that word group there. But the thing is, that's not all justification is about. It's not just as if I'd never sinned, because the idea there is, here's the sort of sin buildup, and it gets wiped clean, right? But that's not all that happened. There's also a righteousness given to us. So not only is the debt wiped away, but also we're positively, on that side, we're given the righteousness of Christ. So it's as if we've kept the law. It's as if, because this is what happened, 2 Corinthians 5:21, he who knew no sin became sin, right? It's as if we have been punished for our sin because Christ took the punishment. He's a real substitution. This is the beautiful thing of the gospel, and I see a lot of people commenting, it seems like she was involved in some way, and it seems like it would be prosperity gospel, because it does have a very transactional view of God, which is not biblical at all, and that's why doctrine matters, because if we have these wrong conceptions about who God is and what we expect, then when real life hits, we find out it's false, and then we dump the truth of Christianity, which is centered on the person of Jesus Christ. And so that's very important. And I agree with you, John. I'm so glad that your number one video has such a clear presentation of the gospel. It was beautiful the way you laid it out. And you have a real gift. This is no joke, bro. You have a real gift for saying succinct, concise things. I mean, your video is only 7-some minutes itself. It's amazing. You're able to pack that all in there. So congratulations. And I think you even showed clips of her video. So you did a lot. All right. Question 6 now. This is from Warrior Woman. She kind of cheated and asked like a lot of questions in one. The only reason I'm doing Warrior Woman is because you're pretty awesome, and you do I guess I could say you deserve it, but who deserves anything, right? But nonetheless, I'll put all of your questions up here, Warrior Woman, and just see what John wants to do with it. Okay, here's all of Warrior Woman's questions. John, you ready?
Yeah.
Whew, okay. She says, do you think many people of faith are just simply one big tragedy away from turning their backs on God? And then how should Christians handle loss and tragedy? So that's the first part of her question.
Okay.
For question 6. So just kind of asking about where do you think people are in their faith now, and as far as when tragedy hits, and also, do you have advice for what people should do when things happen? And then she continues on, the lady in the Gungor video lost faith when they couldn't have a baby. Many Christians struggle when they feel God hasn't heard their prayer. How should we view prayer requests and tragedy? So kind of take all that, and we'll do best we can for you, Warrior Woman. John, those are for you. So. No,
absolutely. What's up, Warrior Woman, too? Good to see you here. So with that, we kind of get down to this concept of, whenever I hear questions, I'm always looking for the assumptions behind the questions. I want to say, what are they really saying, right? And when it comes to things like evil and stuff like that happening in our lives, it makes me think, what are our assumptions about God then? Is this that God would not let us suffer if he loved us, or if Christianity was true, or what? And that's the kind of thing I'm trying to think through, is like, what is the assumption behind it? Now, I will say, a lot of the times too, when I talk to atheists and stuff like this, and they're saying that they can't believe in a God. I mean, even on this video, there's a lot of comments. They're like, "Oh, you ignored the problem of evil because you know that there's evil in the world, and it's the concentration camps that really, made her an atheist. And you're so disingenuous in your lie or whatever, right?"
Some of those guys, man.
Yeah, but that's just how it is, So. They're sinners too, and so that's just part of it. We're all messed up in some ways, So, but the thing though, the assumption a lot of the time behind that is, if God had good reasons for letting people suffer, if bad things happen, then we would all know. I'd be the first person to know it. And if I can't think of any reason why God can't let suffering happen, then Christianity or God can't exist. Like that's clearly an invalid, invalid assumption.
Right.
So something like that. As for when it comes to like Christians being at the the kind of like one tragedy away from losing their faith, that's possible. You know what I mean? There's a lot of Christians that are all over the map, of course, but the fact of the matter is, it's not really. I'll put it this way: when it comes to everybody on this globe, I'm sorry, starting to act up. When it comes to everybody on this globe, it's not a really us versus them thing. It's like a we problem. It's not a them problem, and we don't have this problem. We all have a problem, and so we're tempted by the world, our flesh, and the devil, according to John, and so if we are kind of one tragedy away, my advice would be that there's a few things you need. One thing that you really need is community, a community of people that are on their spiritual journey too, and they're a few steps ahead of you, if possible, that you can really talk to and dialogue with. Without community, this is why it really kind of saddened me that a lot of people, the conclusion they took away from the video was, this is why I don't go to church, and I just have my own relationship with God. And that's sad to me because that's not what the Bible teaches, and that's not what God wants. The community is so important for your spiritual walk. Get a best friend if you're a one-on-one person. Like I'm a more kind of one-on-one person than a social person. I'm more of an introvert. But my best friend, like me and him talk every day, and we talk through all kinds of this stuff, And
in fact, real quick, just you put up 3 videos recently with you guys having those casual conversations, right?
Yeah.
Encourage everybody to check those out. Those are good, where you guys kind of just sit down and talk about a lot of different issues in a very interesting way. Yeah,
appreciate that. Yeah, and so and we also are working on material together too, where we're trying to build some material that hasn't really been done yet that we wish it was done. So we're starting that in January, but we're getting all the structure and outline and everything now. So January we hope to start releasing it. So, but anyways, that's crucial. I mean, critical. 2, you clearly, I mean, obviously you don't want to keep, you want to try to stay away from sin as much as possible, because the more you kind of give into your flesh, the more you train your flesh to be more active, rather than your spirit too.
Yeah, and what's interesting about that, a lot of times people, I'm not saying her, okay, that's not what I'm doing here, but I know of people and it works this way, and sometimes if you're honest with yourself, most of us can even have felt something like this before. When you start making a lot of moral compromise, get into heavy patterns of sin, that type of thing, you notice a lot of times it starts to affect your theology, and you start having new questions or doubts you didn't have. Now, we're not saying we're against talking or thinking or even being honest about areas we're struggling with, but a lot of times it's like the tail wagging the dog, I think would be probably the proper phrase there, where all of a sudden, I've got this boyfriend or girlfriend and I want to do this and that, and all of a sudden you start questioning Christianity as well. And so that's an excellent point. So that's good, because you notice, again, John's good at not just limiting it to the facts of the matter, although those are important, but he's able to look at and talk about how it relates to the full person. So I appreciate that impulse. Final comments before I switch to the next question from our listeners.
Yeah, I just want to say I agree with you. I noticed that, at least in my experience with people. I noticed that the sin kind of aspect comes first, and I hate kind of, saying it like that because of the connotations it has can be a distraction, and people will just be like, oh, he said the SIN word. But, and that's another thing in the video too. I want to watch how I'm saying what I'm saying, so that way it'd be persuasive to the person where they're not kind of turned off by some certain buzzwords. That's not something I'll do all the time, but that's something I'll do in some situations, so. But anyways, no, I've noticed that same thing too with people too. And I've even noticed it in my own life, you know what I mean? Like, especially like really trying to, kind of walk and learning what's going on and all this. I'm just like everybody else. So if you guys struggle and get tempted by your flesh and stuff, of course, I mean, we're all the same, we're all in this together in that sense. And so I've always noticed that too, which is another reason why, we've just got to be careful, and Yeah, I guess that's all. I'll kind of leave it at that for now before I go down another rabbit trail. So
That's good. All right, so the next question, remember I had 2 open questions, you guys, and now we've filled them because I've got the last 2 questions. I wanted to make sure I interviewed the interview sort of on my own terms, not with the amateurs. I love insulting my audience. Andrew Graham asked this. I don't know how you would approach this here, John, but he asks this, and, feel free to answer however you feel. He says, this is question 7. She said she left Christianity because she pastored a megachurch. If she pastored a smaller church, would her view be any different? And he goes on to say, I don't like the idea of the megachurch. It makes every other church look bad as they're dragged down to the level of the megachurch. Just comment on that in any way you want. I have things to say, but I'll let you go first.
No, absolutely. A good question. What I will say is, okay, first I want to empathize with that because I think, at least for me, I'm skeptical when I see megachurches, and I think we're kind of been conditioned to be, right? Because we hear about all these things like, and I actually went to a church in LA that was a megachurch, and I remember hearing this, I was like, oh my goodness, like the guy passed around the offering thing like 5 times during the sermon. That's not an exaggeration either. And I was like, all this guy money, and then he's talking about the prosperity thing and stuff too. But I will say that that's not, I would disagree with that. I think now Tim Keller has been really influential to me as well.
Mm-hmm.
And he has a mega church,
right.
And I think it's exceptional. I really do. I think he's a really good pastor. You know what I mean? He teaches at Redeemer. I think he's retired now, but he taught at Redeemer in New York City. And now I think he's starting to help church planting. So I wouldn't say that. I'd say, I've been actually the church I went to when I was 15 that I talked about in the video. That was a very small church, but it was so culty, you know what I mean? And it was the wrong gospel. It was the transaction view of God, and we were actually told that if we left that church, we were going to be cursed, So,
okay.
So, but see, that was a small church, so I don't think size really has anything to do with it. I genuinely think it's message. The church I go to now, me and my wife go to, is a really small church, but we love it because this is like, I'm kind of late because I'm a convert. But he's like going through the Bible and stuff like this all the time. I'm like, whoa, a church where we're actually going through the Bible and he talks about the gospel and gets it right. You know what I mean? And so I feel blessed to be able to be part of that church too, and help serve there. So anyways, that's what I would say is I wouldn't really focus too much on the numbers.
Yeah, maybe this isn't directly to the question because, but I'll say one thing and then I'll think about if I'm going to say the second thing. But the first thing is this, is that not necessarily the mega church itself, because there's effective ways to do it where you essentially have a larger setting, but then you have smaller groups within that, and you can still have people be effectively shepherded. I've seen it sometimes better than smaller churches where there's not very good discipleship. So it's not the mega church per se, although there's inherent problems with larger churches, just like with lots of things that are larger. So, okay. However, maybe there is something to be said about American celebrity Christian culture. Their ages when they were given these positions were incredibly young. Maybe they weren't really ready for the position. Well, to be honest, it seems clear, and I'm not trying to be judgmental, but it seems clear they weren't ready for the position that they were given. Why were they? Well, perhaps it was due to some of their giftedness, but their giftedness doesn't necessarily qualify them to be pastors. Now, I don't know exactly the ecclesiastical structure of the church they are involved with, but nonetheless, you have to see, and BuzzFeed could just be titling it a certain way. We'd have to look more into that, I think, to see. But of course, this would get into your views of men and women as far as complementarianism and egalitarianism. But a lot of us would think if you're talking about pastor in a normal way the Bible would understand it, there's some of us who would see that as a role that is a male-only role. Now, I know that everyone doesn't agree with that. I'm not saying John does, and doesn't fix all the questions in the video, but I'm just saying that as a side to maybe even challenge some of the conceptions that are laden in some of the video. And maybe, audience, hey, you guys agree, don't agree, we could talk about that sometime. I just want to at least bring that up. Got 2 more questions here. Let me jump to the last 2 here. John McCray. And question 8. So, you've done a good job with this, bro. do you have any advice you want to give to other Christian YouTubers, especially apologists on YouTube? Now, you don't have to give away all your secrets, but maybe you can at least give a little bit of crumbs to those of us who wish one day to have a video that gets 143,000 views. Give us something, bro, please.
Well, first thing, man, this is a tough question because I've actually this last couple years, or actually, I started my channel in December, right?
Yeah.
So we're coming up on a year of having the channel, and this year I've been doing a lot of thinking about effectiveness of YouTube and all this too, and I put it. Gosh, I don't know how to word this in the right way. I probably think that one of the things I don't like to see as much is everybody wanting to be a star, right? Because we learned this in apologetics. We have our guy that we like, whether it's William Lane Craig or James White or whoever, we're like, oh, I want to be like that guy, right? I want to do what he does. But I think that's kind of really the wrong focus, because we have a lot of apologists, but we're also fragmented. Everybody's kind of doing their own thing. And because of that, we don't have a community, so we can't make as strong of an impact. You know what I mean? And so that's just my first kind of initial thought is like, please help your local community. You know what I mean? Your local community is so important.
Well, let me stop. So you say for Christian apologists to help their local community. How are you defining their local community? So because I agree, we're fragmented off in these different things, and I understand there's a certain level of where certain apologists will work with certain apologists, but one thing, for example, I appreciate, and I think you appreciate too, about David Wood, Acts 17 Apologetics, is that, he's done well and he hasn't been stingy. He kind of put us on, but we're not the only people. Same thing with Anthony Rogers. To an extent, Sam, he's been working with other people to try to help them step up their game. He's provided equipment and opportunities for them, and has done just a lot for others. I think he's a good example of somebody trying to help others in that sense. I'm not sure if that's exactly what you mean, though. What do you mean when you say help your local community? What do you mean by that?
No, on that too. Yeah, Wood's my boy. I mean, Wood has really, he is a selfless guy. You know what I mean? And trying to help people. So that's really cool. But what I mean in your local community is, your local churches is what I'm kind of thinking. So go and your neighbors or wherever you live, like do evangelism here in your local area.
Okay.
Because the reason why is because it's hard to get people to change just off of a YouTube video. It's sad, but it's true. I wish it wasn't so, but it's true. You really need for them to have. They need to be discipled. They need to have someone to talk to and also have experiences, and then be able to talk them out and work them out with somebody individually. That's how people change. It's very rare that people will change just from a video and then have sustained growth. And so that's why I encourage everybody to be a small group or whatever you need to do to be able to strengthen the body of Christians, because that's crucial, very crucial. Okay, so that's what I meant by that.
Well, let me stop you there real quick, because I like how practical you are here, John. This is great. I mean, what a great answer. I'm asking about advice for YouTube apologists, and he talks about your local community you're physically around. John McCray, for example, everybody, he's involved with a local Reasonable Faith chapter. So what he's talking about, he does. He's already mentioned his friend that he has conversations with. And can you say anything about that? Hey, say someone's in the Colorado area. I mean, I don't know, could you say a little something about that? Because I think it's a good practical example of how you do this kind of thing.
Well, yeah. I think, I go to church locally here too. And, I try to help out there. Then me and my other friend, we teach at the Reasonable Faith Denver chapter in Colorado too. So, so I guess that's pretty much it. But if you are in Colorado and you want to come, then just go ahead and look us up. You can find it, Reasonable Faith Denver, and then come visit us, or shoot a message or something so we can chat. But I think what we've realized is it's hard to get people to change just based off of one thing. The three things that we kind of lay out, there's really 5 points, but the three kind of main things that we've laid out when we're trying to work through the material is that people need awareness of what's going on, the problem that they're trying to fix. Then they need experience in trying to solve the problem. Then they need community where they can talk through and actually translate what's going on. And so that's why it's so important to have community, because without that, it's a lot harder to change. It truly is, So I've been blessed with with a good friend that I can tell anything and I can talk to all the time, and we can talk about, you know, Christianity and stuff like this, and really and argue with. You know, you have to have somebody that you can argue with. You know, we argued about a lot of different things. So,
you're breaking up a little.
Drastically.
Breaking up a little bit. Let me just say, I can second that. John always wants to try to argue with me.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing too, right? I like to make people uncomfortable, but within the right boundaries. And the reason why is because I think this is how you can really, not in our context, but yeah, I do like to argue with you, but but I think that's how you can. Jesus would, you know, he would ask people questions and get them to be uncomfortable, because a lot of times that's how you're going to get them to see their need for Jesus. But now, please don't misunderstand me and everybody go be like a jerk to your neighbor or something like that. That's not at all what I'm saying. But as long as you have your neighbor in mind instead of trying to elevate yourself, you know, it's like, why are you telling somebody to do better? Is it so that way you can feel morally superior, or you could invalidate them or anything like that? Then that is the wrong motives. You know what I mean? Everything needs to be what's best for that individual, you know? So that's all I want to say about that. Yeah, now we're actually going to the question that you asked, which was about the YouTube channel, right? So with YouTube, what I'd say is that I think we have enough channels of apologists talking to apologists about apologetics. You know what I mean? And that's
Yeah, I saw actually you recently tweeted our mutual guy we respect, Grudice, the Grudice on Twitter, was recently saying basically it ain't no good when apologetics from Christian apologists is boiled down to other apologists talking to other apologists about apologetics, and there's truth to that. Sometimes it gets to where everyone's talking about the method they use and critiquing this apologist and all this, and it's like, this is really insular and sort of almost incestual at this level. Is this really the point of apologetics? I don't know that's where you're going, but I just want to second that. But go ahead on, John.
Yeah, absolutely. Doug Grotice tweeted that the other day too, and it's local too. So, but anyways, no, I think we have a lot of that. And my biggest concern for people that are trying to do apologetics is that a lot of the time they're just talking to so academically to like academics in a way, you know, and we have this entire culture out here that doesn't talk like that doesn't think like that, you know what I mean? And so we always want to be thinking, what is the best way for us to effectively reach the culture? We're not trying to do these videos for ourselves to make us feel smart or awesome or creative or anything like that. We really want the effectiveness to be you know, we really want to be effective, in other words, right? And so I think that's crucial. Like, I at least try, and I know it's tough because a lot of the apologetic material doesn't translate easy at all to culture, practical talking, the way you talk to your neighbor. And then to add to that, your neighbor has emotions, right? Your neighbor's not just a data intake machine, you know? So it does get complicated, which is why we're trying to build this material to try to help more people. But that's the thing too, is like, you want to talk to people like people. So I don't want to ever have these kind of cliche responses. So if like somebody comes up to me and says, hey, I can't believe in God, you know, because there's no such thing as truth. I don't want to just jump away and say, well, is that true? You know what I mean? Because that's like the kind of cliche thing. But Jesus didn't do that when you look at the Bible. He responded to people differently based off of the needs of that person and what he was trying to uncover in that person. And that's exactly what I think we need to be translating in terms of apologetics. So when it comes to YouTube, I think that if you I think just as long as you're trying to be effective and you're not doing it all for just your own kind of glory and to show how smart and cool you are, then I think that it will be good. You know, I just
you're breaking up a little bit every time you break up. I interrupt just so it doesn't go on too long. Guys, I'll let him come back on because I notice it usually fixes itself. If you go in Google and you type in the title of this video, I stopped believing in God after pastoring a megachurch, and everybody, we've gotten word from multiple sources that Lisa Gungor, who someone asked, is she related to Michael Gungor? Yes, husband and wife team of the Christian music group, well, formerly, of Gungor, that she is not an atheist, that wasn't her titles. But let me continue on. if you type "I stopped believing in God after pastoring a church," that title, into Google, number 1 is the original Buzzfeed video. Number 2 is John's video. That is amazing. Theirs was released at September 19th, and John released his at September 30th. And his is on What Do You Mean? I encourage everybody to watch this video. John just did a stellar job. Theirs is 7 minutes and 13 seconds. His is 7 minutes and 45 seconds. And his has the same title, and it just has reaction. It's got a really good little cover, which I kind of played off of for the cover of this. But that is just phenomenal. And so, every video can't be a reaction video, but reaction videos are certainly a useful format, everyone, and I encourage apologists to think about reaction videos. Think where you can fit in, and John used a perfect opportunity and did it very timely, very relevant, and just excellent. So again, I encourage everyone to watch his video of this. It's a great model of how to do these things. I just want to reiterate, because some of you are like, wait, why are you interviewing him about a reaction video to another video? This is pretty big it's very current. This is big, and so I just want to reiterate the level of quality and how well this is doing and how glad I am about it. So I just want to reiterate that. But sorry, I hope I didn't take you too far off track. We've only got one question left, but John, I'll let you wrap up that thought.
Just real quick on that too. If you guys do reaction videos and stuff, please think about who's watching. Yep. I mean, because I've even seen some people's took the same thing that. I believe at least. Well, yeah, because they use my same language and stuff. Same thing that I said in my video, and then redid the video, but we're being like jerks about it, right?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. I saw the same thing, and I said this is a perfect example of the way to do it and the way to not do it. And it's not to put anybody down, but maybe I'm not. Hey, I don't follow John in everything. We like we said earlier, we argue, but the way he did this is so excellent with the gospel centered, and the empathy is just so. Again, I'm not trying to interrupt you too much, but I just really want to reiterate what you're saying. You are correct. I know exactly what you're talking about. Go ahead, bro.
Yeah. No problem. And so that's the thing and this is just kind of happens, but it's the thing I worry about is that like people that are going to watch the reaction video are going to, because 40% of my traffic to my video came from the Buzzfeed video. So that means 40% of those people watch the Buzzfeed video, then they watch my video. So now what happens if I was just a jerk and was like condemning everybody and just in this like awful way or something like that? And then what would they would say, okay, yeah, look at these jerk Christians, which they already have this idea. So I want to try to, again, it's not about me, so that's what I always want to try to keep in mind. It's about who's on looking, you know what I mean? So that's an important thing. So that's the only thing I'd say, because it's unfortunate when I see stuff like that, but happens.
Excellent. Well, John, is the last question, and I'll let you go. And if we have a couple 5 minutes, I might hang out with my viewers for a few minutes after that. But this is the last question. This kind of gets to the personal aspect of it. You could sit down, you could talk one-on-one with Lisa or Michael. So there's not YouTube, that you just fill in the blanks for that. John, you could sit down. How would you want a conversation like that to go? How would you want it to be? What would you hope you could get to if you could sit down and talk to either one of them one-on-one, maybe specifically Lisa, but fill in the blanks on that. What would that hopefully look like to you in your mind?
No, that's a really good question. I would love to, by the way. So if anybody ever wants to set it up or something to have us talk, I'd love to. I don't have any, and this is the thing is I've never done any debates. It's not really my thing. I don't really do debates. People keep asking me when I'm going to debate Dillahunty or somebody. I don't. That's not really what.
That's not your thing. I mean, that's not your lane necessarily.
It's not. No, it's not. And it's for me. I and some people are like incredibly skilled at it. I'm probably not. But I would love to sit down with them and just ask them questions, understand where they were coming from, and just kind of get to the core of what the kind of main issues were, because I know they can't get to the core of everything in a BuzzFeed video, but I'd really just like to understand them. And then, that would be my main kind of thing. And then we'd see how the conversation went from there. But the main thing is I would just want to ask them a lot of questions. They seem like genuine, honest people, you know what I mean? To me, at least. And so, they seem, I would just love to sit down with them and, eat or something or whatever, and then just talk with them, or even on YouTube maybe. So,
bro, I could be wrong. I'm not saying this, makes it easier or something like that, but I thought I remember seeing something about them at some point having something in Colorado. Let me see. Then again, I remember her talking about Indiana. No, it doesn't look like it. But I thought I remember at some point seeing something about them. No, but it doesn't look like it. All right, well. No, I thought I remember maybe he had a song called Colorado. I remember there's something with Gungor in Colorado I saw one time.
They moved to Denver is what she said in that video. In the Buzzfeed.
I knew there was something that I saw. That's interesting. Okay, they had moved to Denver.
Yeah, they could be local, and so I mean, yeah, that would be good. But I mean, I'm sure they're, I think they're still touring. I think I don't really know anything about them, like I said. But when I went to her Instagram, I saw a picture of her like in front of a stadium or something. So they might still be touring and busy, and I'm just a little old me. So, but if they like to talk, I mean, I'd love to. So, they seem like cool people. So.
Last I knew, she was doing some touring stuff for the book. At least I don't know though. What's next? All right. So let's see here. That is the last question. So, John McCray, anything you want to say, man? Before we jam out, I really, really appreciate you coming on and doing this. And again, congrats on the video, man. So fresh, so nice.
No, appreciate it. I could probably take like another 2 questions in the comments if anybody wants to drop anything.
Oh, look at John McCray trying to be a crowd pleaser. All right, let me see. Let me see here.
Question you can.
Let me see if I got. I don't know. Some of you guys are awesome in here, and I love you guys. Some of you guys are kind of lame. You guys got to step up your question game. I just mess with you guys, but let me see. A lot more comments than question. It looks like I'm looking through these. A lot of people are congratulating you, by the way. A lot of people are congratulating you on the video, and a lot of people, it looks like they have seen it. Yeah, I got more comments like, here's a guy lives in a Hindu majority country and is watching and is talking about when we look at a Christian country and see the so-called Christian leaders who have no real values of Christ. Oh, I guess this is sort of a question. Well, this is a little. Let's try to do this. I think he's referring to leaders. Let's see what we could do. I like to try to get international folks. I live in a country that has a Hindu majority. So when we look at a Christian country, so I think he's referring to the United States, I guess, and see that so-called Christian leaders who have no real values of Christ, how do we defend this? Let's try to turn that into a better question we can get a handle on. John, you got something to say about his comments there?
Yeah, I think what he's probably referring to in a nice subliminal way is Donald Trump, right?
Oh, you think so? Okay.
That's what I hear, and I do agree. It's I'll put it this way: when it comes to politics, we need to think, of how WWJD, what would Jesus do, right? And so we think of when Jesus was, presented with the dilemma, with the Sadducees and the Herodians, and they said, yeah, should we pay taxes to Caesar? Now, Jesus answered either way he was going to be in some trouble, but Jesus said, when he responded, or they said, should we pay taxes? And then he said, whose face is on this? And then they said, Caesar. He said, okay, give the Caesar what's Caesar's and give the gods what's God's. And it's really kind of like that with the kingdom. Like, my big concern, I'll put it this way, is that politics has become so intertwined with Christianity that it has a negative impact on how people perceive Christianity. It's actually created another barrier. And statistically, I remember reading polls on this. It was one of the biggest reasons why people would not like Christianity it was during the election time or after the election or something like that. And we've got to be careful too. We don't excuse Trump, his immoral behavior just because he says he's a Christian or because he's, fighting for Republican views and all this. But that's not, you got to think again, what does this communicate to culture? It's like if we were hard on Obama behind, his immorality, but then we're on Trump, we're like, hey, it's no biggie. You know what I mean? Then it's like we've got to. I just hate to see how politics and religion has become so intertwined. You know what I mean? But I will say that, I've made a video too talking about the far left and that sort of thing too. But the more I kind of think about it now, is like we just need to be wise about this situation. And again, we're not putting our trust in man either. We're putting our trust in God, and our kingdom is not on this earth. You know what I mean? it's not, or Jesus' kingdom is not on this earth, So we just want to really exercise wisdom with that and be aware of what's going on, instead of just saying stuff just to tick people off too, and there's a lot of wisdom to be found in seeing both sides too, like talking to people from both sides and having a good conversation, with people. So I know I was all over the place on that one, but hope that helped a little bit maybe.
Yeah, we don't want any political party to think that they own us as Christians, and I think that's important to talk about and mention. And also, if a person is thinking of Trump when they mention this, a few things. One is I wouldn't agree with the designation that we're a Christian country. You could maybe say there's a heavy Christian influence on the founding of the United States of America in a lot of ways, sort of almost like a Christian civic religion or civil religion of sorts that's been part of our history. Not to say there's no true moves of God. Of course, so there's been special blessings, in my view, when I look at the First and Second Great Awakening, even the Jesus movement, revival of the 70s, things like that. No doubt about that. However, I wouldn't really say, I wouldn't feel comfortable calling America a Christian country, and especially now, it's almost more and more looking slowly like Canada, Europe, post-Christian. And so when I see the version of conservatism, that's sort of a populist conservatism of Donald Trump and supporters, really what I see is almost a secular version of conservatism. So if the secular left, has disliked conservatism with sort of an influx of a lot of sort of evangelical input, I think they'll like the secularized version of conservatism even less. And I think we've seen, again, some of that in Europe. When you look at the political landscape, you kind of see some of that. And those are sort of my thoughts on the matter. However, Tabi Priya may have met if the Christian leaders themselves are kind of abandoning the faith. Maybe he means that. And just let me mention that, if that's what you meant, hey, well, that's why we don't look to man or leaders. Not to say we don't respect them or follow them as long as they line up with biblical values. God has put pastors there for a reason and a place. The Bible calls them shepherds of our souls, and we are supposed to give those who rule well. The Bible says double honors. That's actually a Bible verse, you know what I'm saying? And so that's why you want to make sure you're plugged into a healthy place, right? But at the same time, ultimately, that's not where our faith lies. It relies in the person of Jesus Christ. So I've got one last comment, and I thought this was good. And you kind of already commented on this, but I like the way he put it, so good. Let's make this the last thing we comment on. This was earlier in the conversation from Darius Rogers. He says, what I got from her video, I watched only twice, was that she has a distorted view of the church and God's purpose. Everything is to glorify him, and he brings glory to himself. Comment on that, especially maybe focusing on the distorted view aspect. I know we've covered it, but I think that's really fundamental to this, and we'll make that the last question before I ask the backpack. I'm going to ask the backpack question, and then we'll close the show. But John McCray, you got the last word on Darius Rogers' comment there.
Okay, and you cut out a little bit. Just repeat the question, just make sure I heard it right.
It's on the video if you're able to see on your screen right now. It says, what I got from her video, I watched only twice, was that she had a distorted view of the church and God's purpose.
Okay. Yeah, so I'd say that this is this is a long story, so I'm not going to get into it all. So I can justify this, but I can't do it all here right now. But our culture has shifted dramatically into this sort of individualism. I'm not sure if maybe that's the right word, but the thing is that the individual has become the authority, and how the individual feels and what the individual wants is kind of king, right? And so because of that, we've kind of taken this from culture, and a lot of people say it's like consumerism and stuff like this, taking this idea, we've taken it from culture and we've brought it into our church. And so we think that all of this church is here and God is here just to please us and fulfill our needs. Where in reality, we're there to serve the church and to serve God and, do his will instead of our will. And so that's one of the things that's pretty big because, I even thought about this. I said, if I go to this church and I'm like, you know what I mean? My first thought is going to be, can I serve this church in some way, right? You know what I mean? If just say I just don't like it, like say the teaching's good, I just don't really like it. Can I serve this church? Instead of thinking, what can I get from this church? There's also more, what can I give to this church? And so that's kind of a mindset that I try to have too. And and it's only in our culture like today where we have this concept where God exists just to please us. And that's just not, you know what I mean? we're not like guinea pigs in God's experiment where he has these pets that he's just trying to keep happy.
Right. You're breaking up a little bit.
That's you know, so much. Yeah. So yeah, just so much more. And so that's the whole thing is like there's so much depth in the Bible. And I know in this episode I didn't justify. So for all the atheists watching saying, well, how can you even believe the Bible anyway? And how do you even believe the Bible anyway? That's not what this video is about. I had a lot of other videos talking about that, you know. So but in this video, I mean, the Bible is there's so much wisdom, depth, and reflections of reality from the world to people to everything like that. Christianity is a really realistic view of the way that the world is that accounts for the most things in any other worldview. So
that's good, John. That's good. I see Lily and Rox B gave in the super chat. Shout out to you, and again, thank you too for being part of the Mod Squad as well as the Street Apologist social media team, y'all. I see that you guys gave in the super chat. I don't think I announced this earlier, so I'm sorry. This is something sometimes you guys got to help me out in the live chat. I didn't announce that whenever we get to 50 in the super chat, $50, or 100 viewers, which I think we peaked around 65, which we're at 64 right now. Whenever we hit 100 viewers or 50 in the super chat, I do a freestyle at the end of the show, and so we're like 28 away from that. So I just thought I'd mention that. But good stuff, John. Someone just popped up a question and said advice for fighting the prosperity gospel or going against the name it and claim it. Listen to the person that asked that question. We don't have time to get on that right now, but let me just say, since you asked that, watch my channel in the next 7 days. I have a couple of things, discussions about that very question, and I'll put them up on the channel, and I hope that you're able to see them. I hope they benefit you and bless you. So I'm going to do that. I got to get those and kind of edit them and put them together. But the next 7 days or so, I'll put up one video or two that I hope will help you, that will speak about some of the prosperity gospel types of things. So with that, John McCray, one more time, tell people how to find you on YouTube, as well as if they want to support what you're doing. They see this vision for Christian apologetics and they're what you're about. And me, you, David, Anthony, and some other of us kind of on a team. We call ourselves the Apologetic Avengers, so we're a little squad. And we don't agree on everything, but we got an end goal, which is making Christ known on the internet using the means available to us right now. We want to work while it's light, before it gets dark. Jesus spoke about this. And so you're one of the people I see that's a shining light in doing this. So people want to support Patreon, they want to subscribe. Tell people how to find you, and then I'll let you go, and I'm going to talk to the backpack. So go ahead.
Yeah, so my channel is What Do You Mean? WHADDOYOUMEME. So you can just Google that, search it. I think if you even type in "What do you mean" or any kind of variation of that, you should see it. And then also, the other question is a Patreon, where you can support me if you want to support what I'm doing. It will help so that way I don't have to work 2 jobs, and I can spend more time doing videos. So 1 job's fine, and then I can work on doing videos. So,
especially because you got that little new mouth to feed, especially.
Yeah. New little baby too. So second boy. So, but yeah, no, I'm still blessed, and I'm blessed to be able to do videos when I can. Eventually, I'd like to spend more time doing it, God willing. So, if you guys want to support, then go ahead. And if not, it's still all good. You can still enjoy the content. All right.
Hey man, I look forward to seeing you next month. I'm sorry. We're gonna cut it up. Cut it up. So thanks for coming on, John, and then I look forward to doing that with you, bro.
Sounds good, brother. Hey, thanks for having me on, man. And thanks everybody that watched. Love you guys.
All right, awesome, man. You cannot beat my man, John McCray. Yeah, I love talking to him. All right, let me mess with this here real quick. Is it gonna go back to that? It's got a camera angle I don't like, but we have one other thing we need to do before we get out of here. I'm just gonna live with that camera angle for now. Let me just try to fix it a little bit. That's all right. I guess you guys can see my Captain America shirt, Brooklyn. Some of you guys have already seen that, but nonetheless, it's all right. So every now and then we like to consult the backpack. The backpack's kind of like a Google that you can put on your back, and I want people to have a backpack with apologetic resources, and so we've got this talking backpack. It's sort of like a co-host of the show, and so we have a conversation, and it's time for that conversation. Backpack, can you give us some resources that would help us do better culturally relevant apologetics on the internet? Backpack, could you please help us with that? That's a burning question. We need your help, Backpack. Anytime, Backpack. Anytime now.
Backpack, magic backpack. I'm the Mega the Mac attack backpack with
Nice. The backpack has blessed us. So let's find out exactly how the backpack has blessed us. All right, let me see here. Let me switch over. Boom. All right, backpack, what do you got for us today? Looks like some good stuff. All right. Ooh. This is a helpful one. The New Media Frontier. Blogging, vlogging, and podcasting for Christ. Nice. On Crossway Books. That's an interesting book. I didn't know they made books on that topic. That's great. It's on Crossway. Now, it's 2008, so that means a lot's changed on the internet, even in 10 years. But nonetheless, some helpful stuff in here. The New Media Frontier, blogging, vlogging, and podcasting for Christ. I'm glad that apologists are making books like that. That's great. Thank you, Backpack. Now, what else do we got here? Wow, check this one out. I've recommended this one before. It's a little thick. The Christian Imagination for every Christian reader and writer. Now, this is edited by Leyland Riken. Yes, it focuses a little bit more on literature. However, what I like about it is it gets you thinking about a Christian philosophy of literature, which I think translates to a Christian philosophy of arts, which I think taps into the creative realm, which relates to what we've been talking about today, in my view. So that's why I bring that up. It talks about imagination, beauty, creativity, to teach and delight the Christian writer, the Christian reader, state of the arts, success and failure in current Christian fiction and poetry. And again, it's more about the literature side, but I think it's helpful when you think about applying it to apologetics on the internet. Realism, myth and fantasy, poetry, narrative. Very helpful to go through. Last but not least, thanks, Backpack. This is super big, but this book is amazing. The Gagging of God. Christianity Confronts Pluralism. D.A. Carson. This is he's one of my favorite authors. This is on Zondervan. Cover's a little bit weird. Not a fan of the cover. But this is great because this helps you understand sort of a lot of the mindset of the culture that we're dealing with here. And it helps you understand when it comes to questions of truth and pluralism and all that stuff, just kind of how to navigate and understand really what we're up against. So I encourage you. And if this one's a little bit too big, I think he has another one called The Tolerance of Intolerance, which I've actually done some shows on. But that's one I recommend because it helps you understand what's going on in the head. Okay, so yes, there is a backpack emoji. Carol, thank you for putting that up, by the way. I appreciate that. Oh, Gerard Perry likes D.A. Carson. Wow. Psh, I got the best audience ever. All right, now, you guys have been awesome tonight. I noticed that when we go late, meaning we'll be broadcast a little bit later in the night, I noticed we get more international people, which I like that. I do appreciate that. But, I can't always broadcast in the night. This is off subject. Where did you get that mic from? This is called a Blue Snowball mic. But I'm trying to work on getting a new mic, actually. So to the Patreon people who support, I've been saving, and I'm trying to get a mic. It's a little costly, but I want a broadcast mic that has a certain sound that I expect from broadcasting quality. This is okay. This Blue Snowball, it's good for sitting down in a room, and if you don't have multiple mics, it picks up everybody at a decent level. But it's not as good for this. I'm not always happy with the audio output of it. I want a better, different sound. And so this is like $100. The ones I'm looking at are $300, $350, but I'm not there yet. So Darius, this one's okay. It has a cool look to it. There's a silver one that's better, but I would look at maybe some other ones depending on what you're doing. So it just really depends what you're doing as far as that goes. But good question. Now listen, guys, I got to get out of here. But let me tell you, this Thursday, what I'm going to be doing. I'm still working on having Al Fadi as a makeup guest on. But this Thursday, I'm going to be doing one of the sort of Bible study live broadcasts where we go through Colossians chapter 2. And we're going to start around 14, 15, especially verse 16, and go up to the end of Colossians chapter 2. It's going to be very relevant to groups like the Hebrew Israelites. It's going to be very relevant to you in general when it comes to things like dealing with the Hebrew roots, those who would be kind of like Judaizers. Colossians 2 is excellent, and so I really hope that you guys can join this Thursday, so not tomorrow, next day. I'm going to go live around 5 o'clock East Coast time. Yeah, Nuxa, I'm saying 300 is how much I need to get this new mic I'm looking at. That is how much it is. Because what it is, it's this mic called, I think, a Rhodes mic, and I spent all day on the phone, Nuxa, talking to my, I got some engineer friends, so I'm not necessarily an audiophile at the level they are, but I know there's a certain sound I've wanted from a microphone, and so I've been asking them for it, and my friends have basically recommended the same 2 sets of mics, so I'm looking at getting one of them, one's 300, one's 350. What it'll do is, though, it'll create that warm, low-bottom sound that's a much more full-orbed, full spectrum of the audio sound for the human voice. They're specifically made for broadcasting and podcasting, although one of them's, the more expensive one's more versatile. It actually does things for other things. So, yeah, I agree, Nuxa, but that's what we're after because it'll improve the quality. I always want to look to improve things. Now, having a good mic doesn't make you have good content automatically, but having a good mic with good content is a good combination. And then I want to make things better and easier for people, and we're really competing with the world, and it's an uphill battle on the internet. It is no joke, the algorithms that are against us. But the Bible says no weapon formed against us shall prosper, and that includes the algorithms. By the way, wow, so Ruth's 5 Angels just gave in the super chat 20 and said, bless you, VOCAB. Listen, that means we're supposed to be ending the show, but now we're only $8 away, I think, from a freestyle. So we're about to be done, but I don't know. If you guys do $8 in the super chat before I close out of here, I guess that would mean we need to do a freestyle because, remember, it's 50 is what we do at. But again, thank you guys. You guys were awesome tonight. So do turn on this Thursday at 5 o'clock East Coast time, Colossians chapter 2, verses 16 to 23, sort of a Bible study one. Let me tell you about a few other things I got planned coming up. I'm going to have Al-Fadi on, who's an ex-Muslim from Saudi Arabia. He's going to be joining us probably not this week, but next week. And as also, I got a friend named Aaron Shafawala from Salt Lake City, and I've been working with him to do a program where we compare Islam and Mormonism. That's still in the works. And then some of the other programs that I've got coming on, I'll let you guys know about later. But one last thing. Ramon Jones. Farsight's in the house. Well, we just hit our 50. Okay, well, now let me get the beat ready, guys. You guys are hilarious. One other announcement I need to make real quick here is that I'm doing a current schedule where I'm going live not going live, but dropping a new video every single day. And I'm starting a new strategy beginning this weekend. I've been dropping a new video every single day since March. But as of this weekend, I'm going to only do it on the weekdays. And I have 5 reasons why I think it's a better, more effective, efficient strategy in the long term to do 5 a week versus 7 a week. And I put them on the Patreon page. It's a public post so everybody can see it. So if you want to know my reasons, just go to patreon.com/vocab, I think is the address, and you'll be able to see my reasons for only doing 5 a week. That's still a lot. That's a lot of content instead of 7, but I give 5 reasons. I don't want to repeat right here, right now. But let me get, Roxby, I don't know. I tallied it up. I thought it was a little more. Maybe you're right. Maybe I'm wrong, but either way, I said I'll do it, so I got to be faithful. So let me get it ready here, guys. I got to set this up here. Let's see. Which one are we going to use here? That one's a pretty good one. Let's see here. Let's do this one, guys. All right, y'all ready for the freestyle? Here we go. It's time to slay. Thank you, John McCray. You're like an ill DJ, cutting up the records this way. Walk this way, not run DMC. John McCray starts with MC. His last name, you could say, but he can meme. Check it out, John. He's the illest on the scene. On YouTube land, John is the man. You know I'll give him a high five to the man, the plan, and for me to slap it. Hey, John, let me get your clout, let me grab it. Just kidding, you got the hip hop like a rabbit. Hey, yo, when I curse, I say dag nabbit. Like Andy Griffith, I grab the microphone and begin to rip it. Now it needs stitches like a suture. I will rhyme into the future. I'll rebuke the computer when it shuts down. You know I rebuke the GMS dudes in the chat who be wildin'. VOCAB alone on the mic freestyling. Here we go again, I'm not from Shaolin. From Columbus, I play the violin. That's a lie, I play no instrument. But God makes me a musical instrument in his hands. I'm like his poem, he knows my real name. It's not VOCAB Malone, it's John Mark. He makes me a light that'll shine in the dark. He got my heart, he could do the same for you if you're true to his scriptures. Read Ephesians 2 and Ephesians 1. Start believing, son, upon Jesus Christ. He's the only son, he's the only one. Monogamous, that means only begotten. He's not rotten, he's fresh. Now I seek his doctrine, cause good doctrine leads to good worship. And now peep this out, you know he's worth it. He is worthy, not like James. He's God Elohim, he's got a few names in the Bible, such as Jehovah Shalom, Jehovah Rophi. You know, I'll write a poem. Yes, yes, y'all, I spit it from the dome. Excuse me, need a drink. Plus some time to think. I'm writing this from my mind, got no ink. My breath stink, I need a peppermint. Hello, I got a sentence, I put it in a sentiment. I been it like a coat hanger when you lost your keys. The beat's a banger, I'm not a stranger. I serve Jesus Christ, he's the one who was born wearing the manger. Stay away from danger, that's impossible if you're a Christian, cause you preach the gospel. The world is hostile, they don't like it, but I grab the mic and the mic kit. I need a new one, I need another drink. Excuse me, I blink. Yeah, been talking for an hour and a half, sweating so much, when I'm done I need a bath. What up to Carol? Give me your autograph, cause you're back from the dead. I believe in resurrection. Yo, what's up? I answered 9 questions, plus a couple more. Who else I see? 1, 2, 3, 4. I see Alyssa, Jasa. I see Ruth's Angels. I grab the mic from any angle. I'm not an angel, but I'm a messenger. I rap so fast, you might be in a blur. What it were, you know it's a dream. What's up, Lucid Deb? I see you on the team. My name is VOCAB, last name Larry. I see you in the chat. Your name Gerard Perry. Who else we got? We got Warrior Woman. I call her WW, or maybe just Dub. But you know, Miss Piggy, you got lots of love from VOCAB plus Radical Greek. What's up, J Bus? About to be done. All right, 3, 2, 1. Gotta catch my breath. Alright, you guys, see you Thursday. Backpack Radio Live. Thank you. You guys make it happen. Tonight was a blast. Make sure you watch John McCray stuff. That's my man. Peace out, y'all. Time to stare into the camera until we're done.